let's get into Aboleth Basics. People have a big misconception on what Aboleths really are, because they are very deceiving in terms of what they look like. So why don't you tell us what they look like?
So they are a literal monstrosity, something that would crawl from or swim from your nightmares.
They're technically an aberration.
An aberration. Yeah.
Yes.
So they are.
So.
They're very scary looking. So basically, they can look like this. They have many forms actually, but the most traditional one is they have a fish-like body.
Yeah,
Water.
These are aquatic creatures.
Yeah, so they're aquatic creatures. They got a long, slender fish-like body, and they could have between 1 or 2 tails.
Okay.
And they also have fins on the top and on the sides. They can have up to like 6 fins, which I think is really unnecessary. But they also have 3 eyes on the front of their heads. They can be vertical or horizontal. The eye colors can be black, but most typically it's red. That's what most aboleths have. They normally have 4 long tentacle or tendrils on the side of their head, on the back side of their head. They got these 4 long tentacles. Okay. Even on the back between their tails, they can have more tentacles there too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, very scary looking. On their face, they have a mouth, but they also have what most people think are gills, but they're actually not gills.
All right, we'll save it. We're getting specific. Well, what are they?
Well, they're kind of like orifices, I guess.
Mouths.
Yeah, kind of like other mouths, and they can have between. They can have none of those. They can just have their normal mouth, while some can have like 6.
Lots of mouths.
Yeah, lots of mouths.
Okay, so yeah, just to summarize, I kind of think of them as like a cross between a squid/octopus and a shark, because you have these tentacles, but they're like really thick tentacles and kind of low in number that take up their tail a lot of times. So instead of it being just a big fish, it's more like the front of a fish with the back being these thick tentacles.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but their mouth is this just gaping hole of teeth, right?
It's actually, like, I kind of looked through it, and that's what most of it is basically just a abyss of teeth, but some of them can actually have like a fish mouth.
Yeah, you are describing, I think, actually later editions. The picture in the monster manual for 5e.
That thing is a spawn of Satan.
Yeah, it's got shark in there, but it's also got squid, so it's like a mouth of teeth, but it's circular mouth. It's it'd be like if you had a beak, but instead of a beak, it's teeth. And then you got the eyes running down the forehead, 3 of them, or across, as you said. And you could even say they're eel-like. I believe this is how they're officially described, although they don't look like eels to me.
Well, I think they move like eels.
Right.
Like, it's like their head is stationary, but the rest of their entire body moves. Like an eel does.
Yeah, it goes back and forth.
Yeah, which is kind of cool.
But then also just add just a horror element to the way they look like.
Yeah, so kind of like Lovecraftian.
Right.
Like horror.
If you look at pictures of real sea creatures that live in the deep ocean, that's the vibe we're getting here. These are deep sea creatures. And they look like it too. They're so creepy looking. It's ridiculous. And real sea creatures that live in the deep ocean look like that. Like, look up like goblin shark or.
Have you seen a Yeti crab? Those things they're crab with hair.
Oh, who knows?
Abomination should not exist.
Who knows?
Yes. You're probably wondering, like, what do they like feel like if you touched one? Bad idea, by the way. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But they range between like a cyan to blue color. Not really deep blue, but a fish like color. Silvery, cyan-y.
Yeah.
Type of color. If you look, a little fun fact, if you look very closely at their skin, you can see that they're actually kind of like, they aren't like rainbowish, but do you know that like radiance kind of with water when light goes
scales.
Scales. It's very like multicolored.
It can be.
And there's like light by.
It can. That sounds pretty, doesn't it? It can also be just like a gray or like a tan. The monster manual has it as like just some boring, like just bad, just like gray, bland color.
Yeah, but but they can range between a cool amount of colors. If you touch them, they would be slimy. And we'll get into why.
Yeah, very slimy.
Yeah, very slimy fish.
Okay, so that's what they look like. This is the big misconception. I'm gonna tell what the personality is. And so you may be picturing right now just like this big dumb sea creature that attacks you, latches onto you, and eats you, whatever. No. No. They could not be farther from that.
They are literal big brains. And when I say literal big brains, I mean they have a humongous brain.
Yeah, so we'll get into the specifics, but for right now, the basics of the personality is you need to imagine this ancient, and I mean ancient, highly intelligent monster with psychic abilities. So this is like if you encounter it, it sees you. It can see you, like actually see you, right? Like it sees that you are sentient. It knows exactly what you are, probably better than you do. We'll get into it.
Dang.
It knows a lot. So you may look at it and be like, that's a big dumb fish, but no, it is not.
This dude's smarter than you and all your friends combined, probably.
Yeah.
And when we say ancient, do you want to go to their stats probably first? Or do you...
No, let me just say one thing on that, just because I don't know where else it would fit. So when you're picturing this monster, right, in D&D there's like demons, there's celestials, there's all sorts of ancient types of things. This version of ancient is really just on an evolutionary basis. It's not really magical. It's just what you would imagine would be the culmination of a long evolutionary line that took place in the ocean. So life originated in the ocean, right? In real life, humans, everything can be tracked back to the ocean. This monster is basically what would have happened if intelligent life never left the ocean. If that makes sense. So like imagine humans, but even better, but in the ocean.
That is true, yes. But also, if you didn't know, they're literally, like when we say ancient, they are stupid old. They were there before the gods. They were there in the primal soup. They remember the primal soup. And delicious.
They were here at the beginning of life. They are that life that started, basically. And they just have evolved. And
like they were like the first organisms, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
so when I say they know you better than you do, it's because they were here when you became a species and have watched your species evolve into what you are now.
They were there when your species was just a rock or a spell. They were there when the fabric of life was created. But you might think, where did they come from? They came from the chaotic evil gods.
Yeah, just
like
the
primal gods.
The old evils.
The old evils.
All right, well, we're definitely leaving basics now, but hopefully that gives you a good picture of what they are, because they are nothing that you would really see in the real world. So let's get into what they can do in D&D, and they got a pretty big stat block, at least they have a complex stat block, I should say. It's not the longest one. So we are going to try to break it down as best as we can and as concise as we can. So let's get into stats. Would you like to give the basics? Are you prepared?
Yes.
Okay.
I can give the basics. So basically, the Aboleth probably has one of the most unique stat blocks, but I will give the basics. So it's AC, or it's natural armor. You might think, oh, it's like a little squishy little fish. No. It's 17, which is really strong. Yeah. Its average HP is 135. Not the best.
So its size is large. So when we say fish, we're talking about a big fish. It's bigger than you. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would think it's big as like a great white.
Probably. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something that big. Its speed is 10 on the ground, so it can actually crawl and grab you on the ground. But its swim speed, where it normally is 40.
Yeah.
So pretty fast. It has so I'll tell you its actual stats. It has a high strength of a +5, really strong. Its dexterity, it's a big monster fish, so it's a -1, typical. Its constitution is a +2, not the best, but it's still good. Its intelligence is really good with a +4. Its wisdom has a +2, and its charisma has a +4. So it's very It's very strong.
Yeah, it's got a very strong mind, and although it's not dexterous, it's physically strong and relatively tough. So it's an interesting creature, because it's not just a brawler, right? It's strong and tough, so it could be a brawler, quote unquote. It's underwater, but its mind is really the key here, and it's gonna be the key for how you play it in every sense.
Yeah, exactly. So its skills it gets a +6 to Constitution saves, so making it even better. Its intelligence saves are probably the most insane. It gets a +8.
Very intelligent.
That is very. Yeah. He rivals Megamind. That's how.
When we say big brain, we mean metaphorically and literally, and we'll get into it.
Yes, yes. It also has a +6 to Wisdom, so still really good. Some of its skills, it gets a +10 to Perception.
Yep.
Which is really, really good. And I believe it has, if I can read my own handwriting, it has a +12 to History.
+12 to History.
Scary.
And that will make sense in a second.
Yeah, its senses, it can see dark vision for 120 feet. Its passive perception is 20. Its average challenge rating is 10. But, so those are kind of like its
Don't forget it has
stats.
Telepathy up to 120 feet, too. So it's got dark vision 120 feet and telepathy 120 feet. So, it can sense your mind and stuff like that.
Sense your mind. Wait, so what happens if you're like, if you got like a -2 intelligence for your character?
Or you said, super low intelligence, it doesn't sense you. It's like, wait, is that a rock that just came? Yeah, no, but sneaking up on it, it's got high perception and can sense you telepathically and has really far dark vision. You're not going to sneak up on it. So, yeah, do you want me to get into their feats and stuff?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so they are a big sea creature, right? But they are more insidious than they look in terms of what they can do. But on a basic sense, let's just get into just their general features. So the first one is they are amphibious. They can breathe both air and water. That doesn't mean they like being out of the water. There are other factors keeping them in the water, such as like keeping their skin wet and the fact that they can only move 10 feet on land. But they can breathe air if they need to. They're fully capable of it. All right. Their next thing that they're capable of doing is, I'm going to go to, they have probing telepathy. This is part of their just really, this is them, right? They have a really big brain. They have a really powerful brain, telepathic brain. So with probing telepathy, if a creature communicates telepathically with the Aboleth, and the Aboleth is able to see this creature, then the Aboleth automatically knows the creature's greatest desires. So this is kind of as useful as you can make it as a DM, and we'll get into how the Aboleth would use it. But what I mean by if a creature communicates telepathically with the Aboleth, I mean if the creature sends the Aboleth a message, right? So if the Aboleth says, hey you, if the creature doesn't respond,
it doesn't know.
The Aboleth doesn't get access to the creature's mind.
So it's a scam, guys. Don't respond.
Right, exactly. It's a scammer. But if the creature says, what? Who is that? Bam, the Aboleth is in their mind, and they know their greatest desires.
It knows you want the secret to the Krabby Patty recipe, guys.
Yes.
It knows.
They know, and they have ways of exploiting that, which we'll get into. But their final kind of just passive feature that they have is really what makes them the insidious creature that I said they were. This defines them, really. And it's their mucus cloud.
Ew.
So this is probably only a feature they have underwater.
It is only a feature underwater. So it's bad, so bring them out of the water.
Yeah, bring them out of the water. But so this is what the mucus cloud does, besides being just gross. Basically, at all times, they're covered, surrounded, and filled with this mucus that helps them breathe. That's just basically what it is.
So are they kind of like frogs then? Like they breathe through their like they don't have, they literally do not breathe through their mouths. They don't have lungs or gills, so they're amphibians.
Yeah, they breathe through their skin. I cannot remember what that's called, but there's lots of real animals that do it.
Frogs is a prime example.
Frogs is a good example. A lot of amphibians do it, which kind of allows them to be amphibians. Okay, so that's basically what it is, but it's more than just that. So this is what it does. It's kind of it's a cloud around them around 5 feet. So if a creature that touches or hits with a melee attack within 5 feet, that creature must make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw.
Scary saving throw.
Yeah, it's scary saving throw. I'll tell you what it does in a second. But the reason they have to do this is because if you get within 5 feet of this creature, you're at risk of this mucus basically you're getting exposed to it. It's kind of it's toxic to you. So if they touch it, then it's straight up skin-to-skin contact. So that's why you'd have to make the save. If they hit it with a melee attack, this does not count misses. So if a creature attacks and misses, this doesn't happen. But if they attack and hit, then they will puncture the creature, and that will cause the mucus to like squirt, basically. It kind of like an alien from like Alien versus Predator, how if you hit it, like the acid squirts. It's kind of the same idea, except underwater.
This is rough, though.
Yeah, so let me tell you what happens if you fail this check. So if you succeed, you're fine. If you fail, though, you are considered diseased. You're the official word diseased.
It's a COVID.
Yeah, for 1d4 hours, so up to 4 hours. And this is what happens if you're diseased. You can only breathe underwater. Only underwater.
That's a rip.
So you ain't leaving. You better either win or you're there. So that is just not only like terrifying, but it's also, as a DM, so fun. I mean, it's like, guess what? You can only breathe underwater, and that may be good for while it's going on, while you're fighting, but you know.
Well, I mean, I think that's also like you can only heal underwater too. Like if they try to heal you outside the water, it doesn't work.
Oh, right.
That's funny. And in actual lore, that's actually permanent. Or no. Yeah.
Let's get it. Well, this is what the stat block says, and we can tell you other. We'll talk about other like interpretations. Yeah, but no, it's only 1d4 hours. You roll 1d4, and that's all it lasts. There's so much lore to this creature that there's going to be so much information that we could say, but that is not official. Not for 5e. Okay, so those are the 3 passive abilities. The one with the mucus is really the big theme here.
Wait, does it add on? Like, does it stack the mucus?
Does it stack?
Like if you
no, I don't think it does.
Imagine if
but
it did.
Obviously, if you get stuck underwater, it could repeatedly give it to you. You know what I mean? Repeatedly. But we'll get into kind of so they have more stuff here. So don't worry. It can kind of stack. We'll see why. All right. So now for their attacks. They have a multi-attack, and so what they can do with the multi-attack is make up to 3 tentacle attacks. That's the only thing they can do with the multi-attack. It's more of like a grab than a slap, but it's kind of like they suction on you.
They're kind of like they kind of like reach out, but then you just see them and they kind of
they just poke.
Yeah, they just poke you.
All right, so they have multi-attack, but in terms of all the attacks they can do tentacle attacks or tail attacks, but the tentacle attacks are the only attacks they can do with multi-attack. So if you do the tail attack, you only get 1. But if you do the tentacle, you can do 3.
I'm kind of surprised they don't have a bite attack. Their little mouth
That's
like
true, they don't. Yeah, it's a scary mouth. You'd think you'd want to use it. And there actually is a way you can use it to make it scary, which we'll get into, but it's not on their stat block.
Grabs and throws you in the mouth. Like a freaking blender.
Right.
I like smoothies. Guys.
All right, so this is what the tentacle attack does. It does 12 damage. 2d6 on average. 2d6 plus 5.
Oh, that's not that bad.
Not that bad. But guess what it also does? And this is every time that this hits. Every time. The creature must make a DC 14 Constitution save, just like the mucus cloud, or it becomes diseased again.
Oh, so you just breathe underwater again?
No, this disease is worse. So this is a weaponized version of the mucus.
This guy's breaking all those warfare pacts. This guy's a war criminal.
Yes, pretty much. But so this is what this disease does. And so for 1 minute after getting exposed, nothing happens. And so as a DM, you don't need to tell the players that it's happened to them. You don't need to. But you can tell them, like, you feel like you were, like, tainted. Something bad just happened.
No, just tell them you just felt violated because a freaking tentacle just grabbed you, freaking slapped you across the face.
And you got, like, the black goo in your mouth. And yeah. Okay. But, so for 1 minute, it does nothing. But, well, not but yet. During that 1 minute, the disease can be removed by any magic that cures disease. So if you got your paladin, you can totally do whatever you need to do and get that off. Nothing happens. You're fine.
Which means actually paladins are immune to this thing.
Are they immune to disease?
Because I'm pretty sure they actually have a little thing where they're just immune to diseases.
If they do, then yeah, they're good. They're good. But if you're not a paladin, not so good.
That's why you guys have a party of just paladins. It works, guys.
Right. That's why, just in case, for this monster. Okay. So, what happens if you don't remove it after 1 minute, though? And 1 minute can be a long time in combat, but not super long. So, after 1 minute, the creature's skin, the player's skin, starts to become translucent and shiny, and it's starting to become kind of the skin of a deep sea creature. And so you're going through this transformation.
Wait, so you literally lose your skin?
Well, yeah, there's different ways of doing it aesthetically, but yes, your skin kind of starts to peel off. You're transforming, right? And this transformation is taking place during the first minute, and basically once it hits a minute, it's reached this threshold where you can no longer heal it as easy. And so once you hit 1 minute, not only does your skin become translucent and shiny, you can no longer regain hit points unless you're underwater. So you're kind of becoming this underwater creature. And when out of the water, the creature takes 1d12 acid damage every 10 minutes unless you apply moisture. So you cannot just get up and leave this lake or wherever you are. You are bound to the water at this point.
So just bring a bucket.
Bring a bucket, sure. So then you might say, well, how do I get rid of it? You can't get rid of it the same way you did before. The only way you can cure this disease now is by heal, like the official spell heal, which is a high-level spell, or another disease-curing spell of 6th level or higher.
Which 99% of the population of this world doesn't have.
Right. Like this is a CR 10 creature. So typically you'd be fighting CR 10 players. And they totally may not have a 6th level spell.
Yeah, so it's sad.
Yeah, so you might get... I mean, this is bad. If you get hit with this, what are you going to do, right?
Also, do you know what's worse? If you have a turtle in your group, you better watch out. He gets hungry. Turtles eat jellyfish. If you didn't know that.
Oh, he'll eat you, you're saying? Well, you don't become a jellyfish.
You look like one. You look like a scrumptious snack to him. He'll like smile when you get slapped by him, and your hand becomes like that. You just see him. He just like grins a little. He's like, ooh.
What's that from?
Food.
God, there's something like... Oh, it's like... it's like Bruce in Finding Nemo.
Yeah, like...
Right? If
humans are friends, not fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and so this is just from tentacle attacks. Every tentacle attack, and they get 3 per turn. So they may hit you with one, you pass the check, and it's like, do it again. Other tentacle attacks, right? And so this is really where the Aboleth gets scary. But there's even more. So the tail attack, basic, does 15 damage. That's it. On average, 15 damage. It's 3d6 plus 5. So it does more damage by a little bit, but it doesn't have that whole disease associated with it, so it's not a big deal. But here is the second big thing that makes Aboleths scary and also super fun to fight and play as with the DM, and it's their Enslave ability. Aboleths are big slavers. They love to take things as slaves. We'll get into why. And so what this Enslave ability gives them is one target within 30 feet must make a DC 14 Wisdom save or become charmed by the Aboleth. Completely charmed. The Aboleth is in control. And
this is like a serious charm.
This is a serious charm. It lasts until the Aboleth dies, so it's permanent, or if the Aboleth is on a different plane of existence, so it never ends. As long as the Aboleth is alive, it never ends, which is as long as any charm could be.
If like so as a DM, you could totally like screw that player over and say, yeah, the Aboleth runs away.
Yeah, runs
and
away.
He's gone.
Or just attacks the companion. There's so much we can do. We'll get into it.
Yeah, scary.
So while a creature is enslaved, it's completely in the Aboleth's control. You might as well hand over your character sheet to the DM.
Thank you.
And but the character / creature cannot take reactions. The Aboleth can communicate over any distance with the creature now, so it can give commands no matter where you are. So it may even pretend you weren't even charmed. It may just flee and then, PC's charmed, but no one knows, and now you're just
That
gonna
would
play.
be cool. It's like you like get like that player's number and you text them like orders.
Yeah,
and
what
stuff.
to do. Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then the last part about the enslave action is if the charmed target takes damage, or once every 24 hours, but only if the aboleth is 1 mile away from the creature does it get to do the 24-hour thing. Basically, the target can re-roll the saving throw. So just to say that a little more clearly, the target gets to re-roll the saving throw if it takes damage, so it can get kind of like knocked out of its charm, or if it's far away, 1 mile, the creature gets to make the saving throw once every 24 hours. So it can get out of it. But that's, 24 hours.
That's
The
a lot of
Aboleth can do a
havoc.
lot.
Imagine like a level 20 like wizard that got taken over by Aboleth. 24 hours.
Yeah, of course, a level 20 wizard should
Would
hopefully
probably-
make a wisdom save.
If he does it, all the other players should be like,
I mean, I guess they might not if they just have high intelligence, but they should probably have high wisdom. Okay, so that is an Aboleth in general. However, they're not done. They are a legendary creature. So
they get legendary action.
They get legendary action. So this is the first time we have talked about a legendary creature. So real quick, how legendary actions work is they are actions that a creature is given when they are legendary that can be done at any time. It needs to be at the end of another creature's turn, but what the real thing is here is it doesn't have to be on that creature's turn. So it will do these actions in between other creatures' turns. So if I'm playing the Aboleth and I do my tentacle attacks and my turn ends,
You can,
and then you go, then now I can do another one. I don't have to wait for all the PCs to go. I can just immediately do something new. And so these are the 3 legendary actions that the Aboleth gets. And it can do up to 3 actions, but not necessarily one of each. So I'll get into it. So the first one it's allowed to take outside of its turn, aka the first legendary action, is it can use the thing called detect. And this one's very simple. It basically makes a perception check. Period. We'll get into later what you can use these for. The next thing it can do off its turn is a tail swipe, where it can make a tail attack.
So there's actually kind of no point of using the tail attack on its turn then.
We'll get into it, but yes, pretty much. Tail swipe is pretty much reserved for this legendary action, and then the last one is psychic drain. This one is a little more powerful, and so this one will actually cost 2 of the Aboleth's legendary actions. So if you do this,
3.
it has 3
That's-
every round,
that's scary.
and this will cost us 2 of them. The other's only 1. And what this psychic drain ability does is any creature that is charmed takes 3d6 psychic damage, and however much damage that creature took, the Aboleth regenerates. So it's basically like sucking the HP out of that creature and putting it into itself.
So it wants them barbarians.
Right.
They're chunky. You can zap them of mind.
That's true.
juices
That's
forever.
true. That's exactly right. And they're probably not too good on wisdom. So yeah, that is the Aboleth stats. Quite a big and complicated stat block, but we'll get into how they use it right now.